If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? This age-old question invites us into the fascinating world of philosophy. It teases us to ponder upon the nature of reality and the essence of our perceptions. Is existence predicated on our ability to perceive? Or does the world continue its dance in our absence, unobserved and unhindered? These musings lead us to the concept of subjective and objective reality. The subjective reality is what we perceive through our senses. But what of the objective reality? The tree that falls in the forest, the sound it makes, does it exist if there's no one to perceive it? This question, this paradox, is a mere glimpse into the myriad mysteries that philosophy seeks to unravel. It challenges our understanding of the world, pushing us to question, to think, and to wonder. This paradox is just the beginning of our philosophical journey. What do we know, and how do we know that we know it? This intriguing question whisks us into the realm of epistemology, the branch of philosophy that grapples with the nature, origin, and scope of knowledge. It's a pursuit that has been the cornerstone of philosophical inquiry since the dawn of human thought. Epistemology invites us to question our understanding of reality and the mechanisms by which we come to know it. In essence, it asks, can we truly trust our senses? Can reason alone guide us to truth? How do we differentiate between opinion and knowledge? These are the conundrums that epistemologists strive to unravel. Two of the most prominent epistemological views are rationalism and empiricism, each offering its unique perspective on the acquisition of knowledge. Let's delve into rationalism first. Rationalists argue that reason is the primary source of knowledge, independent of sensory experience. They believe in innate ideas, concepts that we're born with, concepts that don't originate from our experience, but rather are embedded in our minds from the get-go. Famous rationalists, like René Descartes, posited that through reason alone we can grasp fundamental truths about the universe, truths that are certain and indubitable. Now picture empiricism as the counterpoint to rationalism. Empiricists like John Locke and David Hume suggest that sensory experience is the bedrock of all knowledge. They reject the idea of innate ideas, advocating instead that our minds are blank slates at birth, filled over time by our experiences. According to them, all our ideas and knowledge stem from our perception of the external world. These two views might seem at odds, but they aren't mutually exclusive. Both acknowledge the fundamental question of how we acquire knowledge, but approach it from different angles. Rationalism emphasizes the role of innate ideas and deductive reasoning, while empiricism underscores the importance of sensory experience and inductive reasoning. However, neither view provides a complete account of how we come to know the world. For instance, rationalism struggles to explain how innate ideas could exist without any sensory input. On the other hand, empiricism falls short when it comes to explaining abstract concepts that can't be directly experienced, like mathematics or morality. So, where does this leave us? Well, in the face of these complexities, many philosophers have proposed that our knowledge might stem from a combination of both rational and empirical methods. This view, known as epistemological dualism, suggests that while some knowledge may be innate, other knowledge is undoubtedly derived from experience. Knowledge is a complex concept shaped by our perceptions and beliefs. As we journey through the realm of epistemology, remember that its purpose is not to provide definitive answers, but to provoke thought, to stimulate inquiry, and to keep us questioning, always questioning the nature of knowledge itself. What is the nature of reality? This question catapults us into the realm of metaphysics, a branch of philosophy that grapples with the fundamental questions of existence, reality, and the nature of the universe. Today, we're delving into two of its central theories, idealism and materialism. Idealism is a fascinating perspective that proposes the reality we perceive is fundamentally mental or spiritual in nature. In the idealistic universe, the mind is the ultimate reality. Everything we experience, everything we perceive, is a manifestation of our mental constructs. This isn't to say that the physical world doesn't exist, rather that it is a reflection of our consciousness. Think of a tree falling in a forest. If no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Idealism would argue that without a conscious mind to perceive the sound, it doesn't exist. The world as we know it, in all its vibrant colors, sounds, and textures, is a symphony orchestrated by our minds. Then there's materialism. the polar opposite of idealism. A materialist would argue that the physical world is all that exists. They believe that reality, as we know it, is composed of matter and energy. Our thoughts, emotions, and consciousness, they're nothing more than complex biochemical reactions happening within our brain. In the materialistic universe, that tree falling in the forest certainly does make a sound, regardless of whether someone is there to hear it or not. The sound waves travel through the air. They exist as physical phenomena independent of our perception. Both of these theories offer intriguing perspectives on the nature of reality. Idealism invites us to consider the power of our minds, the role our perception plays in shaping our reality. It posits a universe where consciousness is the bedrock of existence. Materialism, on the other hand, grounds us in the tangible physical world. It highlights the marvels of the natural world, the intricate dance of particles and energy that come together to create everything we know and experience. These theories are not without their critics, and the debate between them has raged on for centuries. Some philosophers argue for a middle ground, a theory that marries the mental and the physical, the subjective and the objective. But at the end of the day, they all grapple with the same fundamental question: what is the nature of reality? Is it a mental construct, a physical entity, or a blend of the two? The nature of reality is a concept that philosophers have grappled with for centuries. And it's a question that, despite the advances of science and philosophy, remains as elusive and fascinating as ever. Regardless of where you stand on the spectrum of belief, one thing is certain: the exploration of reality, of our existence, is a journey that continues to captivate and inspire us. How do we reason and argue effectively? This question leads us straight into the heart of the philosophical field of logic, a realm where reasoning, argument, and critical thinking take center stage. Logic, as a branch of philosophy, is fundamentally about the principles of correct reasoning. It's the tool we use to navigate the complex maze of our thoughts, to analyze arguments, and to decide what we should believe or do based on the information available to us. Since its inception, the study of logic has evolved significantly. Among the most influential figures in this field is the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, whose system of logic, known as Aristotelian logic, was the dominant form for over 2,000 years. Aristotelian logic, also known as term logic, focuses on the relationships among terms, which are the building blocks of arguments. It's a system that operates on dichotomous categories, on the binary of true or false. For Aristotle, the world was black and white, and the truth of a statement could be determined by examining its structure and the categories it employed. Fast forward to the modern era, and we encounter a shift in the understanding of logic. The advent of symbolic logic, or mathematical logic, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, introduced a new way of looking at logical argument. Symbolic logic represents logical expressions using symbols, much like the language of mathematics. It allows for a more nuanced understanding of logic, accommodating complex arguments that Aristotelian logic struggles to handle. It's not just about true or false anymore. Symbolic logic can delve into the shades of grey, into the probabilities and possibilities that exist between the black and white. But what is the relevance of these two systems to our everyday lives? Well, logic is not just an abstract philosophical concept, it's a practical tool we use every day, whether we're trying to solve a mathematical problem, make a decision, or engage in a debate. When we employ Aristotelian logic, we're often dealing with clear-cut situations, where the truth or falsity of a statement is unambiguous. Think of it as the skeleton key for unlocking simple, straightforward problems. On the other hand, symbolic logic comes into play when we grapple with complex, multifaceted issues. It's like a Swiss Army knife, equipped with various tools to tackle different kinds of problems. In essence, both Aristotelian and symbolic logic are tools in our cognitive toolkit, each with its strengths and limitations. They're different lenses through which we can view and analyze the world, helping us to reason and argue more effectively. So, next time you find yourself in a debate or facing a decision, remember that you're engaging with centuries of philosophical thought. You're stepping into the shoes of Aristotle and the pioneers of symbolic logic, wielding their tools to navigate the labyrinth of your mind. Logic is the foundation of reasoned argument and critical thinking. It's the compass that guides us through the wilderness of thought, the map that charts the terrain of our understanding. What is beauty and why is it valued? To answer this question, we plunge into the realm of aesthetics, a branch of philosophy that examines the nature of beauty, art, and taste. This is where the philosophical discipline of axiology shines, as it ponders over the value and worth of beauty. When talking about aesthetics, you can't avoid the twin poles of objectivism and subjectivism. These two opposing views offer a fascinating debate on how we perceive and appreciate beauty. Objectivism posits that beauty exists independently of human perception. It is inherent in the object itself, waiting to be discovered. A rose, for instance, would still be beautiful even if no one was around to admire it. Its beauty is inherent in its rich, velvety petals, its delicate fragrance, its symmetrical form. It's a perspective that suggests beauty is absolute, universal, and timeless. Subjectivism, on the other hand, argues that beauty is not an inherent quality but a creation of the observer. It's a personal response shaped by our experiences, culture, and individual sensibilities. In this view, a rose is beautiful because we perceive it as such. Our emotional and intellectual responses to the rose make it beautiful. It's a perspective that suggests beauty is relative, individual, and temporal. These opposing views of aesthetics raise intriguing questions. If beauty is inherent in the object, as objectivism suggests, why do perceptions of beauty vary so widely among people and cultures? If beauty is a creation of the observer, as subjectivism proposes, can anything be considered beautiful if perceived as such? The interplay between objectivism and subjectivism in aesthetics leads us to the concept of aesthetic relativism, which reconciles the two views. It suggests that while there may be universal principles of beauty, their interpretation and application are subject to individual and cultural differences. So, a rose may have universal qualities that make it beautiful, but the way we perceive and value these qualities can vary greatly. This is why a single piece of art can evoke a wide range of responses, from profound appreciation to utter indifference. It's why beauty trends change over time and vary across cultures. It's why what's beautiful to one person may not be to another. Aesthetic relativism suggests that beauty is both a universal truth and a personal construct. The exploration of aesthetics in axiology is a journey into the heart of our human experience. It helps us understand why we are drawn to certain forms, colors, sounds, and ideas. It reveals the power of beauty to move us, to inspire us, to make us feel more deeply and think more profoundly. So what is beauty and why is it valued? Perhaps it's because beauty, in all its forms, has the power to touch our souls, to connect us with the world, and to make our lives richer and more meaningful. Beauty, it seems, is indeed in the eye of the beholder. What is right and wrong, and who decides it? This is the question that propels us into the realm of ethics within axiology. Ethics, in essence, is the philosophical investigation into moral values and rules. It seeks to address questions about morality, such as what the fundamental nature of ethics or morality is, and how ethical values can be determined. Let's begin with deontology, a theory that places duty or moral obligation at the heart of ethics. It argues that the morality of an action should be based on whether that action itself is right or wrong according to a series of rules, rather than based on the consequences of the action. Immanuel Kant, a central figure in modern philosophy, was a deontologist. He believed that moral obligations are categorical imperatives that we must adhere to regardless of our desires or the potential outcomes. For instance, if lying is deemed morally wrong, then a deontologist would argue that we should not lie, even if it could lead to a better outcome. On the other hand, we have utilitarianism, which was developed by philosophers like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. This ethical theory argues the complete opposite. It posits that the morality of an action should be determined by the amount of happiness or pleasure that the action produces. In other words, an action is morally right if it results in the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. So if lying would lead to a higher overall level of happiness than telling the truth, a utilitarian would argue that lying is the morally right action to take. It's about the ends justifying the means, rather than the means being inherently moral or immoral. But here's where it gets tricky. Both of these theories, while providing frameworks for ethical decision-making, have their flaws and critics. Deontology can lead to duty-bound actions that result in negative outcomes. Utilitarianism, meanwhile, can justify actions that are intuitively immoral if they lead to overall happiness. A lie, a theft, even a murder could be justified under certain circumstances if it leads to a greater good. So who's to say what's right and what's wrong? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Theories like deontology and utilitarianism provide us with frameworks to navigate the complex landscape of ethical decision-making. They help us to think critically about our actions and their impacts, and to reflect upon the kind of people we want to be and the kind of society we want to live in. In conclusion, ethics, as a branch of axiology, doesn't give us easy answers. Rather, it equips us with the tools to question, to consider, and to evaluate. It reminds us that we are not just creatures of habit or instinct, but rational beings capable of making conscious choices. Ethics guide our actions and judgments, shaping our lives and societies. It's a complex and challenging domain, but one that's absolutely essential for us to navigate the world with wisdom and compassion. Who should hold power, and how should it be used? This question has been at the heart of political philosophy for centuries, with various schools of thought proposing divergent answers. Today, let's delve into two of these: liberalism and conservatism. Liberalism, dating back to the Enlightenment, champions individual rights, liberty, and equality. Liberals believe in the power of reason and progress, arguing that society can and should be continually improved. This philosophy posits that power should be diffused among the people, limiting the authority of the state. For liberals, power is a tool that should be used to safeguard individual freedoms and promote social justice. They perceive society as an association of free and equal individuals, cooperating for mutual benefit. On the other hand, conservatism, with roots in the reaction to the French Revolution, emphasizes tradition, social order, and stability. Conservatives argue for a more hierarchical distribution of power, asserting that society functions best when guided by established institutions and norms. They view power as a responsibility to be wielded with caution and respect for the status quo. For conservatives, society is an organic entity, a complex web of long-standing relationships and shared history that should be preserved. While both philosophies agree that power is necessary for governance, they diverge on how it should be distributed and exercised. Liberals advocate for a more egalitarian distribution of power, with emphasis on the rights and freedoms of individual citizens. They favor democratic systems and are often open to social and political reforms, seeing them as a means towards achieving a more equitable society. Conservatives, by contrast, tend to support a more stratified power structure, maintaining that societal stability and order are best achieved through adherence to tradition and established institutions. They are typically wary of rapid change, preferring gradual evolution over radical revolution. These differing views on power, governance, and society have profound implications for how we live our lives. They influence our laws, our economies, our social structures, and our cultures. They shape our responses to pressing global issues, from climate change to social inequality. Yet, it's important to remember that these philosophies are not monoliths. There are many different strands within each, reflecting a range of perspectives on power and its use. Moreover, as societies evolve, so too do these philosophies, adapting to new contexts and challenges. In essence, the study of political philosophy is not just an academic exercise. It's a window into understanding the world we live in, the societies we are part of, and the power dynamics that underpin them. It helps us make sense of our past, navigate our present, and envision our future. Political philosophy shapes our societies and governs our lives. Or what is the nature of the mind, and how does it relate to the body? This question has been a central topic of discussion within the realm of the philosophy of mind, which delves into the mysteries of consciousness and the complex relationship between the mind and the physical world. Let's begin with dualism, a philosophical view that posits the existence of two fundamental types of substance or reality: the mental and the physical. René Descartes, a prominent dualist, proposed that the mind and body are distinct entities. He viewed the mind as a non-physical substance, separate from the physical body, yet capable of interacting with it. In contrast, there's the perspective of physicalism. This philosophy asserts that everything that exists is no more than its physical properties, and that includes the mind. So in essence, the mind is seen as a product of the brain's physical processes. This view is often associated with the scientific method and empirical evidence, with proponents arguing that mental states are nothing more than brain states. Now let's delve a bit deeper. Dualism and physicalism offer contrasting views on consciousness. Dualists argue that consciousness is a distinct entity that can't be reduced to physical processes. They believe in the existence of subjective experiences or qualia that are inherently non-physical. On the other hand, physicalists contend that consciousness is simply a byproduct of physical processes within the brain. They believe that our subjective experiences can be explained purely in terms of neurobiological events. The concept of identity also varies between these two philosophies. For dualists, a person's identity is rooted in the continuity of their mind or consciousness, independent of their physical body. In stark contrast, physicalists view identity as fundamentally tied to the physical body, with the brain's continuity being crucial to personal identity. Finally, we come to the mind-body problem, a philosophical conundrum that questions how the mind and body interact. Dualists face the challenge of explaining how a non-physical mind can influence a physical body. How can something immaterial cause physical events? Physicalists, meanwhile, grapple with the hard problem of consciousness. How does physical matter produce subjective experiences? So where does that leave us? Well, the philosophy of mind is a deeply complex field with no clear-cut answers. Despite centuries of philosophical debate, the nature of the mind, its relationship to the body, and the enigma of consciousness remain largely uncharted territory. The mind-body problem continues to perplex philosophers and scientists alike. The intricacies of the mind, the nuances of consciousness, and the mind's relationship with the body continue to be some of the most profound and puzzling questions that we as a species are yet to fully unravel. How does language shape our understanding of the world? It's a question philosophers have grappled with for centuries. Let's delve into two fascinating perspectives on this: structuralism and post-structuralism. Structuralism, developed in the early 20th century, posits that language is a system of signs. Each sign consists of a signifier, the sound or image we perceive, and a signified, the concept it represents. It's like a mental map where every word or sign is defined by its relationship to others. For instance, the word day gains meaning not just from its association with sunlight and work, but also from its contrast with night. Structuralists argue that this system of signs shapes our reality. They believe that our understanding of the world is inherently structured by language. And to put it simply, we see the world through the lens of language. The world does not exist as a collection of isolated objects, but as a network of interrelated signs. This concept is often encapsulated in the phrase, the prison house of language. On the other hand, post-structuralism, which rose to prominence in the late 20th century, challenges the fixed meanings and structures proposed by structuralism. Post-structuralists argue that meaning is not fixed or stable, but is continually shifting and unstable. They believe that language does not reflect reality, but constructs it. Unlike structuralism, which sees language as a system of fixed signs, post-structuralism views language as a field of play, where meanings are continually negotiated and contested. This fluid approach to language allows for multiple interpretations and acknowledges the power dynamics involved in the creation and interpretation of texts. Post-structuralists also challenge the idea that language is a neutral tool for communication. They argue that language is imbued with power and ideology. The words we use, the stories we tell, all these shape our understanding of the world and influence our behavior. Language, in this view, is not just a system of signs, but a potent force that can shape societies and cultures. Comparing these two perspectives, we see a common thread. Both structuralism and post-structuralism agree that language plays a crucial role in shaping our understanding of the world. However, while structuralism views language as a fixed system of signs, post-structuralism sees it as a dynamic, fluid entity where meanings are constantly negotiated and contested. So, how does language shape our understanding of the world? Depending on whether you lean towards structuralism or post-structuralism, you might see language as a system of signs that structures our reality, or as a fluid field of play where meanings are constantly shifting and being negotiated. Language is a powerful tool, shaping our thoughts and perceptions. Whether we view it as a stable structure or a shifting field of play, it's clear that the way we use language has profound effects on our understanding of the world around us. What is the meaning of life and how should we live it? This question, so simple yet so complex, has been a central point of discussion in philosophy for centuries. Two philosophical perspectives that offer intriguing insights are existentialism and Stoicism. Existentialism, a philosophy that emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, posits that life is not necessarily imbued with inherent meaning. It suggests that reality is absurd, devoid of purpose or divine direction. It is up to each individual to create their own meaning, to forge their own sense of purpose in an otherwise chaotic universe. Existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus argue that we must embrace the freedom that comes with this realization, even if it feels daunting or overwhelming. They suggest that in embracing our freedom, we can live authentically, making choices that reflect our unique desires and values. In contrast, the ancient philosophy of Stoicism teaches that the meaning of life lies not in our individual desires, but in living in harmony with nature and accepting the world as it is. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca argue that we should focus on what we can control and accept what we cannot. They believe that by cultivating virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we can achieve tranquility and happiness regardless of our external circumstances. Despite their differences, both philosophies share a common thread: the emphasis on personal responsibility in shaping one's life. Existentialism encourages us to create our own meaning and live authentically, while Stoicism urges us to cultivate virtues and accept the world as it is. So how should we live life? Existentialists might say that we should live authentically, embracing our freedom to create our own meaning. Stoics, on the other hand, might suggest that we should live virtuously, accepting the world as it is and focusing on what we can control. But perhaps the answer is not as binary as choosing between existentialism and Stoicism. Perhaps the key to understanding the philosophy of life lies in the synthesis of these perspectives. Maybe it's about creating our own meaning while also accepting the world as it is. Maybe it's about living authentically and virtuously, embracing our freedom while also focusing on what we can control. The philosophy of life is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a personal journey, a quest for meaning that each of us must undertake. It's about asking questions, exploring different perspectives, and ultimately making choices that align with our values and beliefs. Life's meaning is a question that each of us must answer for ourselves. In the vast expanse of philosophical thought, from existentialism to Stoicism and beyond, we find not definitive answers, but tools and perspectives to help us navigate our own unique journey. For what is life if not a journey of discovery and self-realization? And what is philosophy if not a guide on this journey? We've traveled through a wide range of philosophical landscapes. Our journey started with the paradox of existence, where we grappled with the very nature of being and the mysteries of the universe. We ventured into the realm of epistemology, questioning our knowledge and the means by which we acquire it. We then delved into the metaphysical universe, exploring concepts beyond the physical world, from the nature of reality to the existence of the divine. We navigated the logic of thought, examining the principles that guide our reasoning and the structure of our arguments. Our expedition took us to the Aesthetics of Axiology, where we appreciated the beauty and value in art and nature, and pondered upon what makes something truly beautiful. We traversed the Ethics of Axiology, wrestling with moral dilemmas and the question of what is truly right or wrong. We discussed the political philosophy of power, debating the concepts of authority, freedom, and justice. We inspected the philosophy of mind, contemplating consciousness, the self, and the intricate workings of our mental states. We explored the philosophy of language, dissecting how our words shape our world and our understanding of it. Finally, we journeyed through the philosophy of life, reflecting on the meaning and purpose of our existence. But this is not the end. It's merely a brief stop on the endless journey of philosophical exploration. Each philosophy we've discussed is a vast landscape in itself, with countless trails to be explored and ideas to be unearthed. It's an ongoing exploration, one that requires patience, curiosity, and an open mind. So continue to question, to explore, to seek understanding, delve deeper into these philosophies and venture into new ones. Engage in debates, reflect on your beliefs, and strive to see the world from different perspectives. Remember, the journey of philosophy is a journey of questioning, exploring, and understanding. It's a journey without end,